First and foremost, we'd like to welcome all of you to our second online Christmas New Year's retreat and our 26th annual Christmas New Year retreat, the first one starting in 1996. And right now, we are located in what we call the Om Kutir Garden. And many of you will remember this garden because when you went to visit our very beloved late president, Swami Vimalanandaji, you would walk through the garden to see him. And similarly, those who would come to see Swami Amritarupananda, who lived below Swami Vimalanandaji, you would also walk through the garden. And we decided to do this meeting here because it has a beautiful view of the Ganga. And it's an absolutely glorious day today. And what is so beautiful about this area is that if you look south, you get a very wide and beautiful view of the Ganga. If you look straight, then you get the Ganga peeking through the trees. And if you look northwards, you see the mountains. So it's a very panoramic view, at least from where I sit. So we thought, let you share in this beautiful Ganga darshan as well. Traditionally, when we hold the Christmas retreat, which is normally starting officially on the 24th of December with Christmas Eve and ending on January 1st. On Christmas Day, we have, after the beautiful Christmas Eve session, we have a beautiful Christmas lunch that is put on by the ashram. And that has been given ever since the time of Gurudev, Swami Shivananda. And Christmas Eve also has been celebrated since the time of Gurudev. And normally after the Christmas lunch, there's a couple of hours for people to go for a beautiful walk or have a rest or whatever. And then we have an orientation meeting where we introduce the senior speakers, senior swamis, and we introduce, or have a little time to speak about the retreat theme, and also we speak about housekeeping duties. So in keeping with that tradition, we're having an orientation meeting. We won't be speaking about housekeeping duties, but we will speak a little bit about the ashram, a little bit about the theme, and then later on introduce all the different speakers to the retreat. And actually, even though the retreat, when it's held in the ashram, is from the 24th of December, officially from the 24th of December to January 1st, people are invited, participants are invited to come early if they would like to sing in the Christmas Eve choir, or if they would like to help in the retreat setup. And the retreat setup is quite involved. We have to decorate the main hall, we decorate a kind of tea room, we decorate the dining hall, because the retreat is held in the auditorium, the new auditorium, in the annex. And so there's one hall that is called the Satsang Hall. That's where the Christmas Eve program is held and all the Satsang talks are held. And then on the upper floor is the yoga classes. And then below the Satsang Hall, we have a dining hall. So everything is held in that building with the exception of morning meditation in the Samadhi Hall and night Satsang in the Samadhi Hall. When we had our last live retreat in 2019, culminating on January 1st, 2020, we introduced something new, which is actually traditional in all the offices of the ashram. We introduced, when we met together, we started off with prayer. And we also introduced an afternoon guided meditation. And it really very much changed the whole atmosphere of our work. And it got people it brought people together in a beautiful harmony. And it also helped everyone be absorbed into the ashram atmosphere, because this retreat, when it was live in the ashram, was primarily for seekers from abroad. So it was quite an adjustment coming from a foreign country, getting over jet lag, and then adjusting to a completely different ashram atmosphere. So it was a beautiful thing. And in keeping with that, what we thought to do this year was, for those of you who would like to get into the Gita atmosphere, into the Bhagavad Gita atmosphere, we thought to upload some special talks and readings to an upload page on the Christmas Retreat website, so that those of you who would like to do a little bit of preparation, get in the mood of the retreat and the atmosphere of the retreat, what we're planning to upload is Swami Chidanandaji's book called Gita Vision. And it was a series of talks that he gave during his own 75th birthday celebration many years ago. And it was a wonderful booklet. And in addition to that, we will put links to a selection of talks that Swami Krishnanandaji gave on the Bhagavad Gita that we thought were relevant to the theme, the liberating power of the Bhagavad Gita in daily life. And in these talks, they were very powerful talks. You'll also see, you'll be going right to his website. It's a wonderful website. Swami Krishnanandaji, he gave a number of series throughout the years on the Bhagavad Gita, and you will be able to access all of those as well if you want to. And I'm also hoping that I can get some links to talks given by Swami Venkateshanandaji. All three, of course, are the most senior disciples of Swami Shivananda. And one thing that you will notice if you actually read something of Swami Venkateshanandaji, or if you listen to him, I'm not sure what I'll be able to get, and you listen to Swami Krishnanandaji and you hear the readings of Swami Chidanandaji, what you will notice, what stands out, is just how different their style is, how different their approach is, and how different their perspective is, taken from so many different points of view. And it really reflects on, I've always felt, on the magnanimous heart of Gurudev Swami Shivananda, who, as probably most of you know, we used to always say he wrote 300 books. Now they're saying maybe they found maybe other manuscripts that he actually wrote closer to 500 books. But Gurudev never insisted that you follow his teaching. And I think neither did his most senior swamis. And all they said to us, I remember Swami Chidananda made it very clear. He said, you know, the source of your sorrow, the source of your suffering is a disconnection between the source, support, and substratum of your being, apparent disconnection from the source, support, and substratum of your being. And he says, I don't really care how you reconnect with that. Do it by any means. Do it by following any yoga path, following any religious traditions. Do it by any means, but by any means do it. So Swamiji and Krishnananda Swamiji very much reflected that very open and magnanimous heart of Gurudev. Swami Shivananda, and you will see we interviewed both Swami Nirliptanandaji Maharaj, who is our vice president, and Swami Yogaswarupanandaji, our president, yesterday. And you will see how different, they both spoke a little bit on the Bhagavad Gita, and just how different their approach was. And again, it just reflects the wonderful openness that Gurudev really gave to all of us. And for our retreat, ever since 2000, the year 2000, we have had a theme for the Christmas retreat. And the beauty of that theme is that it offers a continuity to very different perspectives and points of view of each of the speakers. So it's a very powerful way of looking at any topic. So I would like to just say a few words about the theme. As I said, we've been having a theme for many, many years, since the year 2000. And we never know from year to year where the theme is going to come from. It can come from an idea that's been suggested by a previous participant. Very often, it suggests itself based on a celebration that we are experiencing in the ashram. For instance, the very first year that we had a theme was the year that Swami Krishnanandaji left his body. And so the theme of the retreat was a sentence that he had said many years ago, that somebody had remembered, and it was very powerful for them. And it was, come together, come together. In unity, there is strength. And when he was giving, he was in a satsang, and he just spontaneously said, it's like I am hearing from the universal consciousness these words, come together, come together. In unity, there is strength. And that was the theme of our first retreat in honor of Swami Krishnanandaji. And then, you know, when we celebrated the centenary of Swami Chidanandaji in 2016, the theme of the retreat was based on one of his most central teachings. We all are divine. Actually, Swamiji would say, you are divine, everything is divine, know this truth, and live your life to express it. So that was Swamiji's central truth. So based on that teaching, the theme of the retreat became, we are all divine. That was the theme that year. And then a few years ago, we celebrated the 75th anniversary of the inauguration of the Vishwanath Temple, and the 24-hour chanting of the Maha Mantra in the Bhajan Hall. And Swami Yogaswarupanandaji mentioned that and the story behind the connection between those two yesterday. And when we were celebrating that, the theme came, when God alone is, where is the necessity of these spiritual practices, like chanting of the divine name, like the worship of the deities in the temple? Everybody loved that theme. And this year, of course, as you all know, the theme is the liberating power of the Bhagavad Gita in daily life. And actually, I am not sure how this theme came about. I remember I was sitting on the veranda early morning, and I was wondering about the Christmas retreat and what would the theme be. And it all of a sudden popped into my mind, studies in the Bhagavad Gita. But that was a very vague topic, a little bit too broad. And some days later, it came into my mind the liberating power of the Bhagavad Gita. And then when I ran that idea through our team, our Christmas retreat team, I said, what do you think? And they said, still too vague. You've got to include your audience, people you're speaking to. Make it relevant for them. And they all agreed that we should include the liberating power of the Bhagavad Gita, but in daily life. And of course, that is really what the Bhagavad Gita is about anyways. So that is how the theme came about. It was really a team effort. And when I took the theme down to the senior Swamijis to get their permission, and they were all very happy with it, because as all you know, the Bhagavad Gita is perhaps the most popular, the most beloved, the most read scripture in the Vedic Hindu tradition. And as Swami Yogaswarupananda and Swami Nirliptanandaji said, it's a universal scripture. It is not just meant for Hindus, it is meant for all of us. And there are so many different ways that it can be spoken about. And I'm sure that when you listen to the senior Swamis speak, who are so well versed in the Gita, that it will just be a wonderful experience to imbibe their understanding, their in-depth experience of the teachings of the Bhagavad Gita. So I just really want to welcome you again all to the Gita. We'll take a little break now, and in our next clip we will introduce to you the various speakers for this retreat. Hari Om Tat Sat, and again welcome to you all. So welcome back. So I'd like to take some time to say a few words about our speakers. Most of you will already know them well, but for those of you who don't, here are a few words. We'll start with our revered president, Swami Yogaswarupananda, who gave blessings for our retreat yesterday in the Samadhi Hall. Just with reference to our theme on the Bhagavad Gita, I'd like to share with you one of the first things I heard about Swami Yogaswarupananda when I came here back in 1980. And I remember my father telling me, my father being Swami Amritarupananda, telling me with some awe in his voice that Swami Yogaswarupananda was reading the Gita and had been reading the Gita for years, the whole Gita, all 18 chapters, every single day as part of his sadhana. So you can imagine how well versed Swamiji is in the Bhagavad Gita when he has read the whole Gita every day for years. And he also teaches the Bhagavad Gita in our Yoga Vedanta Forest Academy. And we are really very happy, almost you could say thrilled, that Swamiji has agreed to give a series of talks on the Gita. And normally when we have the retreat live, we have a guided meditation between 5 o'clock actually it's 5:45 to 6:45 in the evening. but none of the senior Swamis wanted to do a guided meditation over Zoom, because they felt really to guide meditation you need to be with a live audience one-on-one to get a much better sense of the response. So we thought maybe we could use that time. Actually, we've changed it to between 5 and 6 to enable Swamiji to give a series on the Gita. So this will be something new we've added, and really a wonderful experience for all of us to imbibe Swamiji's in-depth knowledge of the Gita. So we're very happy. Swamiji, of course, he's not only extremely well-versed and an in-depth knowledge of the Gita, but also the Patanjali Yoga Sutras, and also remedial yoga, and pranayama, and regular yoga. So one thing I did want to mention to you, even though the talks in the morning sessions are 45 minutes, the slot for the guided meditation has traditionally been 1 hour. So we are allotting 1 hour for Swamiji to give these talks. So those of you who would like to ask questions on the Gita, but they have to be on the Gita, you can send them ahead of time, through our website, where there is the provision for asking questions. That is the ideal. And I expect that Swamiji would take at least the last 15 minutes to answer questions. We can also take questions on chat. Ideally it would be best if you sent them ahead of time, but if you sent them on chat, if he has time, he could answer them at the end of each session. That is our idea now. So ideally it would be for you to send them ahead of time, but if you want to if something comes into your mind that's very relevant to the Gita teaching, then you can also send them on chat. And one of our tech team will collate these questions and then send them to our tech genius here in the ashram, our brahmachari Ramachandraji. So that is our revered president, Swami Yogasarupanandaji. And then also, who you would have already heard from and received blessings from, is our Swami Nirliptanandaji. He is our vice president. And as many of you would know, traditionally, Swami Nirliptanandaji has always given the first talk of each retreat. And we really love to have him first, because no matter what theme we have, he will give a very in-depth and broad overview of the topic. Whatever the theme is, he always gives a very broad and in-depth overview. And so this year, of course, he has so much knowledge and because, again, the Gita is a very important scripture for him, we've given him both sessions, both the first talk and the second talk of the first day of the retreat on the 26th. And he also is willing to take questions on chat. He would much prefer if you send them ahead of time, but if he has time, then he will also take them. But they must be on the Gita itself. And then we've allotted 2 more sessions for him. I think it's on the 30th of December, morning sessions, for questions and answers. At that time, whatever spiritual questions you have, you're welcome to ask. And again, he much prefers if you send them ahead of time, because we will give them as we get them. We will give them to him, because he likes to give his answers a little bit of thought. Although he gives wonderful spontaneous answers as well. And I think many of you know Swami Nirliptanandaji. He came to the ashram, I think, sometime in the 80s. So anyways, we'll be very happy to hear both from our president and our vice president. And then we have our revered General Secretary, Swami Padmanabhananda Ji. And whenever I go to see him, you know, I'm in always a little bit of awe, because he has now completed 86 years, and he really has the burden of the ashram administration, well, the Divine Life Society administration, on his shoulders. And his ability at his age to do all that work is always a source of amazement to me. So those are our three most senior Swamis who will share their knowledge. Oh, and another thing I wanted to say about Swami Padmanabhanji. He always gives very, very unique talks that go straight to the heart. And I think we always love his talks. And I think perhaps I've mentioned before throughout the years that Swamiji, he studied in a very traditional way, one-on-one with a teacher, maybe even in a village, for many years, just one-on-one. So he has also has a very in-depth knowledge of the scriptures and of Sanskrit and so forth. So we're very happy that our senior Swamis, who are all in their 80s, are still with us and willing to share their in-depth understanding of the spiritual life, and in this year, their in-depth understanding and imbibing of the wonderful teachings of the Bhagavad Gita. And then also from headquarters is our Gopiji. And Gopiji is one of our very beloved speakers of the Christmas retreat. People love his talks. He speaks very, very spontaneously. And what has stood out for me about Gopiji is that I am now living in Om Kutir, but for years I lived in Guru Kripa Kutir, or Guru Prasad Kutir. And I was a neighbor of Gopiji. And he lived right next door to one of our hidden saints, Swami Vidyanandaji. And Swami Vidyanandaji, as I say, was a hidden state, and he had what we call kind of music sadhana, which started, well, he got up 2:30 or 3 every morning to start his sadhana, and I could hear him doing his chanting. But starting at 4 o'clock, various other inmates of the ashram, residents of the ashram, would join them. And between 4 o'clock and 6 o'clock in the morning, every single morning, they would do this music sadhana. They would chant the Gita, a few chapters of the Gita. The whole Gita would be chanted in 1 week. And they would do all sorts of other chanting. It was very beautiful. And Gopiji, who lived next door to him, served Swami Vidyananda for years, in health and in sickness, because at some point Swami Vidyanandaji had a stroke and needed, 24-hour care. And Gopiji was with him day and night for years, serving. So that was something that, the selfless service that he offered was something that really stood out. And an observation I met, and of course with great love he did it, because he had a great love for Swami Vidyanandaji. And then also from headquarters is our Swami Muktananda Ji from, he is my brother in many ways. We're both from Canada, but Swamiji is, he has his room in headquarters, but he spends usually only about 3 months here. And the rest of the time, he is giving retreats around the world, particularly because he speaks English, French, and Spanish. He's giving retreats to much of the French-speaking world in France, in Switzerland, in Belgium, and countries in the Spanish-speaking world, in particular Argentina and Chile in South America. I'm sure he's given in Spain as well. And of course, he speaks in English when he's in the ashram, except that he has retreats for his French-speaking students coming from France or Belgium or Switzerland in the ashram when he's here. Actually, since the pandemic, he has actually been in Canada. There is a Divine Life Society Canadian branch just outside of Montreal in a beautiful, beautiful natural setting in the woods with a wonderful view of the lakes. And the ashram there is called Anande, the Divine Life Society in Canada called Anande. And he gave his talk over Zoom from Anande last year. And this year, he will be traveling for the first time. All through the pandemic, he has been giving online teachings, including in French, in Spanish, and in English. And he just completed a series of 4 talks in English. And he would, in the English talks, he's given several series of 10 talks on Friday. He would be giving them Friday morning. We would listen to them here in the ashram. I would listen to them at night time, starting either 7:30 or 8:30 at night, depending on the timing in Canada, because they change for daylight saving time. But this year, Swamiji is going to be traveling for the first time, and maybe he's leaving today or tomorrow for Chile in South America. So that is Swami Muktanandaji. And those are our residential Swamis speaking from the ashram. Now this year we have a wonderful treat. We have 3 guest speakers. The first guest speaker, I mentioned to you that I have a nice surprise that I'd like to talk about a little bit from Ananda Ashram in Kerala. And just a little bit about Ananda Ashram. There has always been a strong connection between Shivananda Ashram and Ananda Ashram, because Papa Ramdas was Gurudev's contemporary. And although they never met in person, they certainly met in spirit and were in writing contact with each other. And then Papa Ramdas' first book, called In Quest of God, I think was one of the first books that Swami Chidanandaji read and really inspired him in the early years of his spiritual life. And Swami Chidananda became very close to Papa Ramdas' spiritual successor, Mother Krishnabai. And he visited Ananda Ashram many, many times. He was also very close to the spiritual successor of Swami Krishnabai, which was Swami Satchidanandaji. And then the latest successor to Swami Satchidanandaji is Swami Muktanandaji. And so there is this strong connection. And I know myself, although I've never visited Ananda Ashram, I've always loved the books that have come out. I loved Papa Ramdas' books, in particular In Quest of God and In Vision of God. And these books were written, or written after, based on his experiences when he was touring. He was on pilgrimage around India, and they are wonderful books. I recommend to anybody to read these books if they can get a hold of them. I've read these books over and over again throughout the years. And so when we heard that Swami Padmanabhanji was going to be in Kerala at Ananda Ashram, I asked Mahendraji, his assistant, do you think that Swami Muktanandaji would be willing to speak to us in the retreat? And he said, oh, what a wonderful idea. He's a wonderful speaker, we'll ask. And I don't have any biodata on him yet, just that he's a wonderful speaker. And he has agreed to speak. And then our next guest speaker is Swami Vidyanandaji he is from living in the ashram that has been dedicated to Swami Venkateshanandaji, who I mentioned earlier was one of the very senior disciples of Gurudev, Swami Shivananda. And Swami Vidyanandaji, we've invited him to speak. We invited him to speak last year because on the 29th of December is the birthday of Swami Venkateshanandaji. So we've often liked to honor his birthday by inviting one of his disciples to speak. And many years, our revered Veena Sharmaji, she spoke. She spoke at night satsang about her experiences with Swami Venkateshanandaji, or she would speak on the topic from the point of view of Swami Venkateshanandaji. And one time we also had Vandaji share some ideas. Last year, Swami Vidyanandaji, who really I think is probably taking a huge amount of the responsibility for the ashram now. We invited him to speak on the theme last year from the point of view of Swami Venkateshanandaji, and he gave a really, really lovely talk last year. And we've invited him to speak again this year over Zoom from Cape Town. And it's a very special year this year because it is the centenary celebrations of Swami Venkateshananda. And they've done, really considering that they couldn't, because of COVID, they couldn't have such elaborate celebrations in Cape Town. They've done so many things over Zoom, and at least every month Swami Vidyanandaji arranged a talk by one of the leading swamis, disciple swamis of Swami Venkateshananda. So every month we would be able to hear about the experiences and the teachings of Swami Venkateshanandaji through all his leading disciples. And it was a wonderful organization of the thing. And of course, they're culminating this program of Swami Venkateshanandaji's centenary on the 29th. And so Swami Vidyanandaji, he will give a talk. Swami Venkateshanandaji gave wonderful talks on the Gita. He gave talks, on so many different scriptures, which were made into daily readings. On daily readings on the Buddha, daily readings, two volumes on the Yoga Vasishtha, on the Bhagavatam, and then daily readings on the Bhagavad Gita. So Swami Vidyanandaji will speak on that. And also in honor of Swami Venkateshanandaji's centenary, they have invited our president, Swami Yogasrupanandaji, to give a talk in honor of Swami Venkateshanandaji. So Swami Yogasrupanandaji will give a talk in honor of Swami Venkateshanandaji as the first talk of our retreat. And Swami Vidyananda says that they will integrate our retreat, Christmas retreat, into part of their culminating celebrations of the centenary of Swami Venkateshanandaji. So we're really delighted to have him as a guest speaker and to honor Swami Venkateshanandaji in this way. And as I said, I will write to Swamiji and to our Vaniji, who you all, many of you who come to the live retreats know Vani very well, that we will see if we can get some kind of links to talks that Swami Venkateshanandaji gave on the Gita. So we're very happy, as I said, to have Swami Vidyanandaji to speak to us and to again honor Swami Venkateshanandaji during his centenary. And then finally, for our guest speaker, we are also very happy to again invite Dr. Dominique Cassidy. She will be doing two things for us. Dr. Dominique, she is she's not a resident of our ashram, she's a guest speaker, but she certainly is part of our Divine Life Society family. And we invite her to speak because she has a very in-depth understanding of the non-dual teachings of Vedanta. She has an in-depth knowledge and understanding of Buddhism. And she is also memorizing the Bhagavad Gita in Sanskrit. She is learning the Gita in Sanskrit. And she's a very accomplished meditation teacher. She's a psychiatrist, but she teaches meditation. She teaches meditation to spiritual seekers, but she also teaches meditation to doctors and other medical practitioners, nurses and many others. And last year we asked her if she would be willing to do a very short guided meditation before the first talk. And she agreed, and she has again agreed to do it this year. She will be speaking from her home in Switzerland. And when I told you that in our orientation, when we were in our orientation talk, I mentioned to you that when we were doing our preparations for the retreat in 2019, she was guiding our meditation every evening during our preparation time. And Dominique will also give a talk in one of the night satsangs. So we're very happy that Dr. Dominique will join us because she has given her in-depth understanding and imbibing the teachings of Buddhism, imbibing the teachings of non-duality, her love for Shivananda Ashram and the teachings of Shivananda Ashram, and her perspective as a psychiatrist. It really is a wonderful way that she shares with all of us. And as last year, Dominique and we will share the question and answer period on the 31st of December. These are the speakers. I also am very, very happy to let you know that our two musicians, Zen and Mohan, who gave a wonderful concert last year for night satsang, they are going to give us another beautiful concert again this year. And Zen, Mohan, they're both wonderful musicians, but Mohan has studied Indian music in a very traditional way. And so they will be doing ragas again this year. And we are really, really happy to invite them, and that they have happily agreed to do it. So that is Zen and Mokan, and they will be giving their concert on the second satsang. And last but not least, I would like to say a few words about Swami Krishnanandaji, because we will be celebrating his centenary on April 25th, 2022. And it will also mark the opening of the ashram, we hope. The opening of the ashram, because the ashram would like to do 100 days celebration leading up to his centenary. But in honor of Swami Krishnanandaji, we are going to, on Sunday nights, normally, traditionally until this pandemic period, the ashram was showing videos of our very senior late Swamis, usually Swami Chidanandaji or Swami Swami Krishnanandaji. And last year we showed one of Swami Chidanandaji. This year we are going to show a video of Swami Krishnanandaji in honor of his centenary. And it's a wonderful talk that he gave on Christmas Eve in 1994. And although it is very clear, many people will not be used to his accent, especially those from foreign countries. And so one of our tech team, has volunteered to do subtitles, because along with all of Swami Krishnanandaji's talks is the transcript, especially with when you listen to an audio, then on the page of his audio is the whole talk in writing. So one can follow along reading his talk. And one has to pay very close attention to Swami Krishnanandaji, because he doesn't repeat himself. And if you miss something, if your mind wanders, then you're going to lose a huge amount of what he is saying. But I'd like to say a few words about Swami Krishnanandaji. Because I remember my father, Swami Amritarupananda, saying to me, he said, you know, Swami Krishnanandaji is the only genius he has ever met. And when you combine that genius with his spiritual depth and the power of his spiritual depth, you can imagine what his talks may be like. That's why you have to pay very close attention. And but another point that my father used to make about Swami Krishnanandaji, and I experienced this myself, is that he had this uncanny ability to know where people were in their sadhana, and he had this ability to know where ego was lurking. Sometimes people were afraid to go into his presence because of that. But it was, whatever it was, of course, it was in great love and masterful. And we're very, very happy to honor Swami Krishnanandaji. And as I said earlier, we will putting talks of his onto the Christmas retreat website for anybody who would like to listen. He's given so many series on the Gita, so many other talks are all on his. It's a beautiful website, and we'll give you the link to the whole site. So that is our satsang and our program. And just one other thing I would like to mention to you is that we will be having some recordings that were done last year again this year. And every day we will be giving Hatha Yoga. These will be repeats from the 3 yoga classes, beginners classes, that were given by our academy in charge, Swami Shiva Bhaktinandaji, who gave beautiful introductory classes on the Gita. And like Gopiji, one of the things I really remember about Shiva Bhaktinandaji, when he came here to the ashram, I remember him telling me he had a longing to serve an elderly Swami, and he was very blessed to be able to serve also one of our hidden saints, Swami Brahmanandaji, who many of you, any of you who've come to the ashram will know. And he was one of the reasons that Swami Padmanabhanji came to the ashram. They were from the same place in Kerala. So, and now Swami Shivabhaktanandaji, he is an assistant in charge of the academy and a very beloved member of that academy staff, because the students, they all loved him very much. He organized their seva, and he also made sure that they got up in the morning, and he was there to solve all their problems. So I'm very happy to show that. We are very happy to show that video again. Some people wanted some more advanced yoga classes, but I think the Swamis here in this ashram just feel too concerned that they feel even nervous about giving beginners classes over Zoom, because they really feel that yoga and pranayama meditation should be much more, you know, in a live setting rather than over Zoom. And I also want to mention, see, Swami Shivabhaktanandaji, he is giving the yoga classes, but they will be demonstrated by a lovely Swami who is working in Gurudev's kutir, and he's in charge of that kutir, and that is Swami Purnanandaji, and he's a lovely Swami and is very in-depth yoga practitioner and teacher. And last but not least, I want to mention to you the recordings done last year by one young Swami, Swami Bhakti Bhavananda, and our Bhakti Bhavanandaji and Sarojji, the Brahmachari Sarojji. They both have beautiful voices, and they have done the opening prayers for satsang, and they've done the opening prayers for morning meditation, and the prayer before our meditation session mid-morning. And we were very thankful to them for doing it, and we're repeating their prayers again this year. And again, I should say, another last but not least, really like to thank all the senior Swamis who have again agreed to give their talks over Zoom. We're very grateful to them. All the Swamis who've agreed, Gopiji, and all our guest speakers, Zen and Mohan, and then our entire tech team, who have been incredibly patient, and it's been, I can't tell you how wonderful it has been to work with them. And it's really a worldwide effort. And maybe I could even mention their names. It's Biping and Vimala from Singapore, and Madan from Chennai, and Dominique from Switzerland, and Zen from Brazil, and Krishit, we have also, he's from India, and our Brahmachari Ramachandraji in our ashram is helping us. And so we're just very, very thankful to everyone, and to all of you coming, because we wouldn't have the privilege of doing this if it wasn't for you listening to us. And one of the most beautiful experiences we had last year was that we so much felt the presence of Gurudev, that no matter where you're from, whether you're from living in the ashram or living in India or living from any country, as Swami Yoga said yesterday, 18 countries already are represented, and they're likely to be more. Sometimes we have 20 countries represented at our retreats. No matter where you're from, everyone is part of the family of Swami Shivananda. That was his vision, And that is the way we see it as well. And we all so much felt the presence of Gurudev last year. It was a very, very beautiful experience last year, feeling Gurudev's presence, feeling his grace. And I just wanted to thank you all, everybody involved, participants as well as speakers, for this retreat. Hari Om Tat Sat.